All right, welcome to the Region 3 video. For those of you just tuning in that hadn't watched the Region 1 or Region 2 videos, I'm recording these videos live just because it's easier than recording them and editing them and uploading them and everything. So I'm not going to be interacting with the chat. However, I will have a session tomorrow where we can, I can interact with the chat and have a Q&A and everything about what I'm talking about. But we're starting Region 3. This is Illinois' region. Just real quick before I begin, this video is brought to you by our friends at BetMGM and BetRivers. If you live in Tennessee, Virginia, Colorado, Iowa, or Indiana, you can sign up with BetMGM with the link below in the description, and you can get up to a $600 risk-free first bet. And then if you sign up with BetRivers, if you live in Illinois or Pennsylvania, you can get up to a $250 instant deposit match with the sign-up link below in the description. So keep your money in the United States. Don't send it to overseas sports books. Sign up with BetRivers or BetMGM today if you live in one of those 7 states. And this is Region 3. This is the Region 3 matrix. Again, for those of you just tuning in, you can download this Excel file that I'm working with from my website. I have a link below in the description at my website, sportsbettingtruth.com. I made this for you. I made this for you guys. It has 3 different tabs that you can use to break down these games. So this is the matrix tab. This gives every team's probabilities of making it to each round. Illinois is the Final Four favorite here, slightly favored over Houston. So those 2 teams make up 68.8% of the Final Four teams. I was talking about this on the stream yesterday, though. I think Houston's a little bit overrated. I think the way they blow out bad opponents is kind of helps them game the system a little bit. So I don't think they're that good. Just, that's my gut saying, not the numbers. But even then, that's Houston for you. So... And then the next tier of teams, West Virginia, Tennessee, Oklahoma State, Loyola, and San Diego State. And then you have the next tier, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, and Rutgers. And then I guess you could put Clemson in there, and then everybody else. Only Drexel, Morehead State, and Cleveland State do not have came up short when it came to making the Final Four. So that is that. And this is the Monte Carlo simulation. I simulated the tournament 20,000 times, and this was the average results. So when I look at the regions, Illinois is at plus 150. This gives it 186, so they're not a value play. Houston is at plus 200. I have it 196. That's pretty much even. West Virginia plus 800. Tennessee plus 1,200. Oklahoma State plus 1,200. Loyola plus 1,200. San Diego State plus 1,200. Syracuse plus 5,000. Georgia Tech plus 4,000. Rutgers plus 4,000. So there is really no value play. I think the futures are pretty sharp. If there is one, it would be Houston, but not very much. So I'm not going to lock in any futures here. It's all not a lot of value. The odds makers have it right. So that is the grid, the matrix, so to speak. And let's break down the first round matchups, starting with Illinois and Drexel. By the way, let's go back over here, and we can see what games I have bets on. So this is the tab where you can break down any hypothetical matchup in the tournament. Every matchup possible you can break down. All right, so number 2 versus 146. My model has Illinois by about 17. I was surprised it was that close, but Drexel's not a terrible for a 16 seed. They're actually one of the better profile 16 seeds you've seen in the tournament over the years. Gives them about a 5% chance with a total 145.2. Drexel's problem is their defense is not very good. It's below average. They have a lot of weaknesses. They give up a lot of 2s, and unfortunately, Illinois scores a lot of 2s. They're number 2 in the country in 2-point field goal percentage. They do better at defending the 3, but not as good as Illinois shoots the 3. And Illinois does a good job at offensive rebounding. That's a weakness for Drexel. So Drexel doesn't really do anything good defensively except maybe prevent assists and prevent you from getting to the line, but Illinois does all those things better. So unfortunately, this is a mismatch. Illinois' offense should not have a hard time in this game. Drexel will slow you down. They play a slow-down style. Illinois tries to play fast, so Drexel's only hope is to slow it down. I don't think they will. Drexel's offense, on the other hand, is not terrible. Number 89, it's above average. They do a good job at shooting the ball. Number 9 nationally in 3-pointers, and that's a relative weakness for Illinois' defense. Only number 60 in defending the 3. Illinois defense doesn't turn you over. They don't block a lot of shots, but they prevent you from getting to the line. Unfortunately, Drexel is very poor at ball handling. They're good at offensive rebounding, but Illinois, the number 2 defensive rebounding team. So Drexel's only hope here, is to live up to their number 9 in the country 3-point field goal percentage reputation. And unfortunately, teams like that in games like this usually aren't able to get it done. The moment gets to them, the pressure or whatever. And so still, I think the 22.5 point spread's a little too much for Illinois. And so that's why I am on Drexel plus 22.5. I'm also on the over in this game, over 144.5. Yeah. When we look at similar matchups, by the way, this is a beta. Like my ATM model is very similar to how this is structured. You know, it finds the most similar matchups in the past, but this is beta. I'm still trying to like make my ATM better, so this is like the earlier stages of that. So I wouldn't use this. I wouldn't look at this too much. However, when you look at the top 30 matchups, the margin is minus 20.7. So, but when you add the top 50, it's a little bit more friendly to Drexel. Average total 144.3, right in line with the total is. Illinois by about 12, 16% win chance. I think that's a little too high, but you know, I don't know why that. I think that win percent chance is wrong. It should be 6% because I only see 50 wins for here. So I think maybe the table that this is reading off of might be wrong. What's the average margin? The average margin is 17.2. That's right. The margin's right, but I think whatever the win percentage is reading off of is I have that incorrect. So keep that in mind. And then what else do we have? So yeah, that's that game. Now let's move on to some more competitive matchups, such as Georgia Tech and Loyola. Interesting matchup, very interesting. So the number 32 team versus the number 13 team, I have Loyola by about 2.5, about a 60% win percent chance, 126.1 total. So Loyola's calling card is their defense. So if they have a weakness defensively, it's giving up the 3. They don't let you take a lot of 3s though, but that's because when you do get a 3 against them, they'll probably make it. They do a good job at rebounding. They don't block a lot of shots. They don't let you get to the line. So Georgia Tech's offense, their strength is making 2s, but Loyola does a good job at defending that. They don't get a lot of offensive boards. They do a good job passing the ball. They don't really get to the line. So Georgia Tech's going to have their hands full here. So I think this game will come down to Loyola's offense against the Georgia Tech defense. Georgia Tech is 35 in both the metrics. So Loyola's offense, they can struggle at times. They can. They're not a good 3-point shooting team. They make a lot of 2s because of Cram and Krutwig. But they don't get a lot of second chances. They turn the ball over more than they should, but they get a lot of assists. So they play very slow and deliberate. So if you can make them uncomfortable, like Georgia Tech can do, number 2 in the country in turnover percentage, then I think Georgia Tech has a chance. And Loyola doesn't really get to the line. So if Georgia Tech's going to win this game, they got to make Loyola uncomfortable. Get in their face, turn them over, don't let them get easy looks. I think that's what the game will come down to. How many turnovers can Georgia Tech force? When we look at similar matchups, Loyola by about half a point. This is an evenly matched game. Evenly matched game. Hold on. Let me look at the tab that reads win percentage because I'm surprised that's so wrong. At least it wasn't. Yeah, I think the column I was assigning win percentage to out of R is wrong, so I'll have to fix that. I'll re-upload the file to the website. But yeah, very evenly matched game when you look at most similar matchups. The Kansas State games back in 2019 are your most similar matchups in the past for historical reference. But let me look at what the win percentage is when I do it like this. 42% for Georgia Tech. So that sounds a little bit closer to reality. Interesting matchup there, though. I'm excited to watch Loyola play in that game because the jury's still kind of out on them. All right, Oregon State and Tennessee. Let's look at that. This one has Tennessee by about 7. 71% win chance total, 128.2. These are two slower-paced teams. Oregon State is a better offensive team than they are defensive, and Tennessee, as we all know, much better defensive team than they are offensively. Now, Oregon State, if they're going to get it done, if Tennessee has a weakness, it's probably letting teams shoot free throws and make threes. Unfortunately for Oregon State, they're not really the best three-point shooting team. And however, they're pretty good at everything else. They're pretty good. They're good at getting the line. So if Oregon State's going to pull this off, they need to get to the line. And then Tennessee's relatively weak defense against Oregon State's even weaker defense. If Tennessee wants to solve their offensive woes, they can do it against an opponent like this. Oregon State gives up too many twos. They defend the three well, but that's not good because Tennessee, not the best at making twos, but better at shooting threes. So that's kind of a wash. Oregon State, they're not going to be able to, or Tennessee is going to need to get second chances. And Oregon State, they're very good at stopping assists and passing, not really good at stealing or blocking. And then very poor at letting teams get to the line, which is a strength for Tennessee. So I think Tennessee, when you look at this matchup on paper, they look good. Tennessee, they just need to get some offensive rebounds, get to the line. So that's what this is all going to come down to, which team can get the most free throws. But I think Tennessee's rebounding edge here will prove to be the difference. And then when we look at similar matchups, teams similar to Oregon State by about a 3-point deficit, 60% win percent for Tennessee. Sounds about right. Out of the top 10 matchups, only one win for the team similar to Oregon State, which was Oregon State last year against Arizona. When I look at the real win percentage and drag like this, it's 42% for Oregon State. So, but however, you can see there's most of that green is at the bottom. So wait a second. The teams similar to Oregon State, actually in the top 10, are 9 out of 10. That's upset material right there. So the teams similar to Oregon State are 9 out of the top 10 most similar matchups. So I'd be worried if I was Tennessee. But that segues into this. I have Oregon State on the money line at plus 310. And I think I forgot to mention that I have Loyola on the money line as well at minus 135 against Georgia Tech. But I am taking a shot on Oregon State here. I am. If they can get to the line enough, then they can get it done. And if Tennessee can go on their patented offensive struggles, they can get it done. And Rick Barnes, not the best tournament coach. So I'm taking a chance. So yeah, this is encouraging. Out of the top 10 most similar matchups, 9 out of 10 were won by the team similar to Oregon State. All right, let's look at Liberty and Oklahoma State. All right, this has Oklahoma State only by about 5. Liberty's not a bad team. They're not. Oklahoma State maybe a bit overseeded at 4. Projected total of 142.1, about a 21.6% chance of Liberty winning. So Liberty is definitely a better offensive team than a defensive team. They are a very slow-paced team. They play kind of like a Princeton offense in a way. They shoot a ton of threes. That's kind of what they do. They pass the ball around throughout the whole shot clock until they get an open three. That's what they do. But they're not a good offensive rebounding team at all because they don't really try to get them. They don't get to the line very much because they shoot so many threes, but when they do get to the line, they make them. They take care of the ball, but they are prone to opponents stealing the ball. That's just the nature of the style of offense. That's a byproduct. And so Oklahoma State, when you look at them defensively, they have a weakness. It's rebounding, but that's probably a good thing because Liberty's so bad at offensive rebounding. And they're also another weakness is they foul a little bit too much, but Liberty's weaknesses aren't really, or Oklahoma State's strengths aren't really, Oklahoma State's weaknesses aren't really exploitable by Liberty. So wherever Liberty is strong, Oklahoma State is also strong. So Liberty would just have to make some threes like they have been doing all year to have a chance here. And they're going to have to control pace. Oklahoma State's a fast-paced team. Liberty's not. And so then when we look at this, the Liberty defense against the Oklahoma State offense, well, Liberty is pretty bad at defending the 2. They're bad at turning you over. They're bad at blocking shots, and they're not great at preventing free throws. And then when you look at Oklahoma State's strengths, well, they take more 2s than 3s, not ideal. They make a lot of 2s, not ideal for Liberty. But they do turn the ball over a lot, but Liberty's not really good at turning you over. And Oklahoma State gets to the line. They get to the line easily, so Oklahoma State's strengths on offense play into Liberty's weaknesses. So on paper, you would think that this doesn't look like a close matchup, but for some reason it is. Just because Liberty plays so slow, you never know. You play so slow, you never know. But it looks tougher on paper for Liberty than you might think. So let's look at the similarities. Okay, so the most similar matchup on here is Northwestern against Texas Tech in 2017, where Tech won by 36. So out of the most 12 similar matchups, the margin is 13.6. But otherwise, when you go down the line, so I have that at 9.7. Again, I'm guessing how I calculated the margins and win percentages in R. I might have taken the wrong column that it's reading off of, so I'll fix that and re-upload it. But Liberty won 11 out of 50, or 22%. That sounds about right. And the average margin when you go like this is 9.7. That sounds about right. So we'll have to wait and see. But the total is an interesting one. Do I have any play on this one? I do not. So that is Liberty and Texas Tech for you. However, 2 out of the top 3 won by the team similar to Liberty, and both those teams are Texas against Kansas. So there we go. All right, next matchup on the docket is the 6-11 matchup between Syracuse and San Diego State. Syracuse as a double-digit seed tends to be dangerous. Will San Diego State be the next victim? Well, I have it by about 2 for San Diego State, 57% win chance, 136.2 total. So strength on strength here. Syracuse offense, strength. San Diego State defense, strength. If San Diego State lets you take 2s at the expense of 3s. So that's what San Diego State, San Diego State does a good job at taking away the 2-point shot. They want you to shoot jumpers. If San Diego State has a weakness on defense, it's probably 3-point field goal percentage, defensive rebound, assist percentage, and fouling. So when you look at Syracuse offensively, they don't have the 3-point shooting to take advantage of that. They can offensive rebound. They can get assists. They don't really do a good job at getting to the line, though. So it's pretty much a wash. Like I said, strength on strength. Something's got to give. And then what it's really come down to is San Diego State's offense against the Syracuse defense. Syracuse, like all 2-3 zone teams, very poor at defensive rebounding, very poor at assist percentage, but pretty good 3-point field goal percentage defense for a 2-3 zone team, especially because they give up so many threes, as you can see right there. But they do everything else pretty well. They don't foul you. They get steals. They force turnovers. So San Diego State, I don't know if that's a good enough 3-point shooting to feel good, but they do get some offensive boards. They do good at getting assists. They're a good passing team and pretty good at getting to the line. So this game's going to come down to 2 things. This game will come down to 2 things. Can Syracuse's offense get to the line enough, and can San Diego State's defense hit enough threes? That's what it'll come down to. Or San Diego State's offense hit enough threes. Similar matchups over here. I'm going to scroll down like this because that's the more accurate average. So even Stevens, Syracuse -1, and then win percentage, Syracuse at 52%. So very even matchup. Very even matchup. However, I have Syracuse on the money line at +135 because it's an even matchup. Take the plus money. Syracuse is an 11 seed historically. I know all about that as a TCU fan. So that's that matchup. Now let's look at Morehead State and West Virginia. All right, so first glance, Morehead State's a better defensive team than offense, and West Virginia is a better defensive team than offense. So this should be a lower scoring game. West Virginia plays at a faster pace. The projected score only has West Virginia by about 6, so that's interesting. 84.8% win percentage. And let's go down the line. So if West Virginia has a defensive weakness, which they have some, it's rebounding, giving up 2s, assists, and maybe fouling a little too much. So Morehead State does a good job of getting to the line, but they don't take care of the ball. Very poor at turnovers. That is a weakness for them. And not great at assists either, but they are a good offensive rebounding team. They are good at making 2s, not so good at 3s. So they have a guy in the middle, Johnny Broome, who's their guy. So if Morehead State's going to be able to succeed offensively, they need to get to the line. They need to get offensive rebounds. And they have to beat expectation when it comes to turnovers. But this is a tough matchup for them because West Virginia is so good at turning you over. Tough offensively. So Morehead's strength is plays into the strength for West Virginia, which is defense. So Morehead State, they give you the 3, and West Virginia's done a lot better at making threes this year. They got some transfers, signed some guys to fix that, but not so much at making twos. So Morehead State's best chance here is I hope West Virginia has an off night at hitting threes. Offensive rebounding percentage plays into West Virginia here. Morehead State doesn't turn you over, so that's a bad combination. If you can't turn you over and they're very good at offensive rebounding, that is a lot of opportunities for West Virginia here. But West Virginia's relative offensive weakness, free throw percentage, and 2-point field goal percentage. So if I was Morehead State, I would try to take away the three and make West Virginia take twos. And unfortunately for Morehead State, while Morehead State does a great job at preventing free throws, West Virginia is the best in the country at shooting free throw, like getting to the line. So tough matchup for Morehead State. I think on paper it should be more than the edge I have it at, but you never know. If Morehead State has a chance here, they got to hit their twos, they got to get to the line, and they got to hope West Virginia goes cold from three. So similarity matrix over here. The margin is 11.3. Yeah, you could easily just make this like a equals. I'm going to do it right now. Equals average. I'm going to do it right now on the stream because it read from a different pivot table, but originally this was top 10, but I changed it to top 50, so whoops, average score. Wrong column. I did the margin and not. So yeah, this is the way to do it right here. I'll re-upload this file later because you guys can download it. There we go. And then for total. All right. Now we don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, so similarity is more in line with what I expected. More West Virginia by about 11. 78% win chance, total 133.9. So on this game, I have the over, even though this is under, but over here, the total's, wow, I think the metrics I use for, because I don't use the blender for totals, and half of this number is the blender. So that's why I think I use the Monte Carlo Indy. So I wouldn't look too much into that, but so maybe a little concerning on the over there, but it is what it is. But this is more realistic. But I am on Morehead State spread at 12.5 and the money line at over 137.5. Not money line, my bad. All right, moving on. Let's look at Rutgers and Clemson. Another one of those boring games where it doesn't feel like there's a lot at stake. Although I think Clemson could give trouble to Houston in the second round. So actually, my blender and random forest have Rutgers by about 2.5 and a 55% win chance, but a low-scoring game. These are two slower-paced defensive teams. So this is going down the Rutgers offense. It looks like what they excel at, which is not a lot, is making twos. I guess not turning the ball over. And that's really it. They're pretty bad offensively everywhere else. They're not good at getting to the line. So Clemson, a strong defensive team. They rebound. They're suspect to giving up the three, but Rutgers not a good three-point shooting team. Everything else looks like a wash. I don't expect Rutgers to get a lot of free throws in this one. So Clemson's defense definitely has the edge, but Rutgers' defense is even better than Clemson offense, which is pretty bad. So Rutgers' defense excels in a lot of things except rebounding, but they're very good at blocking shots, and they don't really excel at free throws, but Clemson not the best team at getting to the line. Clemson not the best offensive rebounding team, so it's kind of a wash too. However, Clemson's field goal per shooting, they don't shoot twos or threes well, or at least Rutgers makes twos. So that's where the edge is that Rutgers is a bit better of a two-point shooting team than Clemson. That's really the only place you can find an edge. So let's look at similar matchups. Even Stevens, Clemson by half a point, 54% win chance, 130.5. Do I have a play? I do not. And that's that. The most similar matchups here are Oklahoma State and TCU last year. 2 low-scoring games, only an average total of 110.5 in those. So if you like an under, I wouldn't hesitate. I would, yeah, under. I could see the under hitting in this game. What's the total? Let's look at what the total is. Rutgers and Clemson. What day they play on the 19th? 126.5. I mean, you can do the top whatever matchups you want. Like the top 20, it's 128.4, and over here I have it at 124.3. So there, I don't see a lot of value in the total there. All right, last one, first round game, Houston and Cleveland State. Cleveland State's a good story, but I think they're going to be overmatched here. Number 3 versus 186. I have Houston by 18. Only a 3.9% chance to win for Cleveland State. So Houston is actually a better offensive team when it comes to efficiency than defense, and Cleveland State not really good at either. If Cleveland State has a strength on defense, it's 3-point field goal percentage. They let you shoot threes because they do a good job defending it, and I guess forcing turnovers, but they're pretty bad at everything else. They're bad at defending the 2, but Houston's not the best at making the 2, so I guess that plays into Cleveland State a little bit. But here's the kicker right here. The number 2 offensive rebounding team versus one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the country. That's a recipe for disaster. Houston will get a lot of second chances in case they miss those 2s. Houston takes care of the ball. They get to the line, and Cleveland State does a poor job at preventing teams from getting to the line. So this is a mismatch right here. Cleveland State's offense against the Houston defense, also a tall task at hand for them. They're not very good at shooting. They're better at making 2s. They're not good at making 3s at all. Unfortunately, Houston is better at both on the defensive end there. Rebounding's a wash. But Houston's if they have a weakness on defense, it's free throws. And Cleveland State does a good job of getting to the line. So if they have any prayer at all here, they're going to have to win the free throw battle by a substantial margin. Like, not even close. But that's Houston's weakness. So if you can get to the line, you can beat Houston. But I don't know if Cleveland State will be able to do it enough. But yeah, this is the mismatch that we all think it is. So let's look at the similarity. Wow. Only an 8% win chance for Cleveland State, a little higher, 16-point gap. The DePaul against Villanova is the only one with a win, the second most similar matchup. But Mount St. Mary's against Villanova in the tournament back in 2017. I remember that game. Mount St. Mary's was up at halftime by a point, I think, but then fell apart in the second half. Maybe Houston comes out rusty, but this is a mismatch. All right, let's look at some second-round hypothetical matchups. So we started with Illinois and Drexel, so they could either play Loyola in the second. I want to look at that. So Illinois dogs Loyola. They refuse to play them. So if Loyola, when it gets their shot, they need to beat Georgia Tech. I have Illinois by 10, though, so it would be a tough matchup. Only about a 1 in 4 chance of winning. Number 3 defense versus number 7 offense, but Loyola's problem will be, will their offense be able to do anything against Illinois? It would be tough. They would need someone outside of Cameron Krutwig to step up, and here they won't get a lot of second chances because they don't rebound offensively. They won't be able to exploit Illinois' 3-point weakness. And yeah, just too many relative weaknesses to Illinois' defense here. Like, I think they'll be able to defend Illinois pretty well. If Loyola has a weakness on defense, it's 3-pointers, and Illinois not the best 3-point shooting team. But that's really it. But Illinois does a great job of getting to the line. That could be another pitfall for them. So that's a tough matchup for Loyola. If they were going to make another Final Four run, they'd have to get by Illinois, and that would be a tougher opponent than they beat in the Final Four. Or beat in 2018 to get to the Final Four. All right, what are the 5-12s in this region are Liberty and Oklahoma State and Oregon State and Tennessee. So let's look at Tennessee and Oklahoma State first. All right, very evenly matched game. Only Oklahoma State by about 0.5, but Tennessee has the edge on win percentage. So the question with Tennessee is always going to be, can they score enough? Well, Oklahoma State has a good defense, but their weakness is defensive rebounding relative, and Tennessee can maybe get an edge there. But unfortunately, Tennessee turns the ball over a bit too much, and that's where Oklahoma State's going to excel. And Tennessee would have to get to the line, and Oklahoma State does have an opening there and control the tempo. So it's not a tall task for Tennessee here, but then the Tennessee defense against the Oklahoma State offense. Tennessee, their weakness is three-point shooting, and Oklahoma State not the best at that. And also getting to the line, they let opponents get to the line a bit too much. So I think this game would come down to free throws. Free throws and rebounding will decide this game if it happens. Let's do, what's the 6-3? It would be a West Virginia against, let's do San Diego State and Syracuse. So West Virginia against San Diego State, very even match game. San Diego State slight edge here, West Virginia slight edge there. So thirsty. So when you look at the matchup, pretty evenly matched on both ends. San Diego State's offensive edge is, a bit better than West Virginia's defense. So again, West Virginia's weaknesses, rebounding, which San Diego State's good at. A little bit, they let opponents get assists. San Diego State above average there. It's a wash everywhere else. So this is pretty much a wash. So if San Diego State's offense will get the edge, they'd have to rebound. Everything else is pretty even. And then here's another good on good. West Virginia offense versus San Diego State defense. If West Virginia's offense has a weakness, it's 2-point shots, and San Diego State's very good at that. But however, West Virginia's going to have to make threes if this were to happen, and they're going to have to get their offensive rebounds that they usually get. But here's the flaw for San Diego State. They're not very good at preventing free throws, and West Virginia the best of the country at that. So that's where the game would probably be won for West Virginia, is at the free throw line. So let's look at Syracuse instead. All right. West Virginia by about a point here and a 60% win chance. Syracuse offensively would have to rebound, which they do, but I don't think they'd be able to get to the line enough. Everything else is pretty much West Virginia's edge here. And then Syracuse defense versus West Virginia offense. You hate to see it, but West Virginia is such a good offensive rebounding team and a good three-point shooting team. I think they play right into the weakness of Syracuse. So I think West Virginia would be I think West Virginia would much rather see San Diego State or much rather see Syracuse than San Diego State in a second-round match. All right, let's look at Houston against Clemson. I want to look at that one. I think Clemson has the tools to kind of make Houston's life a little bit difficult. All right, so Houston offense against the Clemson defense. Again, if Clemson's defense has a weakness, it's a three-point shot, and Houston can make them, but Houston will have a hard time making the easy twos. And everything else looks to be a wash. Houston probably doesn't get to the line more than they should, so Houston will have to hit threes, and you never want to be in that position. When you say you have to hit threes, that's not a good position to be in ever. And so the Clemson offense against the Houston defense, that's going to be a challenge. Houston's defensive weakness is free throws, and Clemson just not do a good job at getting to the line. And also defensive rebound, which Clemson does a poor job at. So that's a mismatch right there, and that's why Houston is up by 10 on the projection. However, I say because Clemson plays solid defense, they can control tempo, and because Houston would be asked to make threes, anything can happen. So let's look at Houston against Rutgers. All right, this is a little bit different. So unfortunately, Rutgers' weakness of defensive rebounding plays right into Houston's strength. However, they do a good job at defending the shot. So as long as they can prevent second chances, maybe they have a chance, and blocking shots as well. But offensively, you hate to see it. Rutgers, just like Clemson, doesn't get to the line enough. They don't rebound well enough, and they don't make threes. So Rutgers is an easier matchup for Houston than Clemson was. All right, let's look at some. So I think Houston should get to the Sweet 16, but we'll see. So let's look at Illinois against Oklahoma State. So about a 10-point edge for Illinois. Illinois offense, if they have a weakness, it's free throws, but they get to the line to make up for it, and maybe turning the ball over, which Oklahoma State can turn you over. However, Illinois should have an offensive rebounding edge. And they play into Oklahoma's relative weakness of 2-point defense. So I like, Illinois has an opening here on offense. And then the Oklahoma State offense against the Illinois defense. We have, hold on one second. I just want to make sure my stream didn't stop. All right. So we have Illinois' 5th-ranked offense against the 34 offense for Oklahoma State. And when you're looking at this, you have Illinois is a very good defensive rebounding team, and they're going to turn you over more than Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's weakness is turning the ball over, and Illinois might be able to play in that a bit. Oklahoma State can get to the line, though, so if there's a weakness, it's the fact that Illinois doesn't turn you over. They're not going to shoot the three well enough, in my opinion, so it's a tough matchup for Oklahoma State here. So let's look at Tennessee instead. Okay, this is a closer matchup. Good on good here. If Illinois can get to the line, though, they should be fine. That's what I see, and they can make threes, which they do. They'll be fine there. And then over here, I just don't see any openings for Tennessee. I don't. Illinois' defense looks like a perfect match for the Tennessee offense. So Illinois should be able to get to the Elite Eight. I don't see why not. And the other side of the bracket, let's look at Houston and West Virginia. So this has Houston by about 6, 30% win chance for West Virginia. But on paper, it looks like Houston's a good favorite, but I think West Virginia is a lot better in this matchup than it might seem. And let's go down the line. Houston's offense, remember, they don't make a lot of twos, so the problem with West Virginia here is rebounding. Houston should get a lot of second chances to make up for the fact they don't make a lot of twos. West Virginia is going to need to turn Houston over, and Houston does a good job at preventing the steal. And West Virginia is going to need to prevent them from getting to the line and maybe control the tempo a little bit. So it'll all come down to this. West Virginia going to need to hit threes. Going to need to get a lot of offensive boards. They're going to have to win the rebounding battle. Let's put it that way. And this is a wash over here. And then here's the big mismatch. Houston does a very poor job of preventing teams from getting to the line. West Virginia, number 1 in the country at free throw shooting. So for West Virginia to beat Houston, win the rebounding battle, and shoot a ton of more free throws than Houston does. And I think they can do it. All right, let's look at some Elite Eight possibilities. Let's look at Illinois versus West Virginia. Why not? Okay, this is a bit more of a mismatch. Illinois by 12 or 11. Bit more of a mismatch. Illinois will be able to get their offensive boards. They'll be able to get to the line. West Virginia is going to have to turn Illinois over. That's their opening. West Virginia will have to win the turnover battle by a lot. And then when you look at the offenses versus Illinois defense, remember, Illinois' relative weakness on defense is allowing teams to get to the line and three-point shooting. West Virginia can exploit both of those things. The question is, though, also West Virginia takes care of the ball. So West Virginia to win this matchup, win the turnover battle, win the free throw battle. And then let's look at my mouth's so dry that I'm like slurring my speech. I've been at this for a while now. Let's look at Illinois versus Houston. All right. So, yeah, just like with West Virginia, Illinois should have no problem getting free throws against Houston. However, they're suspected getting the ball turned over on them, and they need to make twos. They need to live up to their number 2 in the country and make it twos and get their offensive board. So I think Illinois' offense won't have a problem here. Projecting Illinois by about 4, 54% win chance. So good on good right here. The number 5 offense against the number 5 defense. Where does Houston have an opening? Well, it's going to have to be threes, and I keep saying that. That's why Houston, that's the second matchup in a row we've said they have to make threes, and that's a problem. They got to take care of the ball, which they shouldn't have a problem doing. That's the thing. Houston is going to have to make threes here, and that's why I think their run would come to an end. The Elite Eight is their ceiling. So that is that region. let's go to the matrix one more time and look at title odds. So let's look at the futures. Probably going to have to log in again. Yep. So we already said there's no value plays on Final Four odds, at least according to the lines that the Superbook has. So let's, when I get logged in, let's look at the title odds. I might need to put my phone up to the window like you guys see me do on my betting streams. Why won't you log in? There we go. All right. College basketball futures. We have Houston at plus 1,200. That's a value play for the title. Illinois is... Where is Illinois? How far down do you have to find them? There they are. They're at plus 500. Nope. West Virginia... plus 6,000. Nope. So, yeah, no one else has. So, Houston's your value play at the title at plus 1,200 if you want to lock that in. And that is region number 3. I got one more to go today. I'm going to end this stream and go and find my region 4 stream coming up next right here in a bit. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in so far.